Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Duval. I am the social media and family engagement specialist here at Tiva. And today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Myers, a math specialist from Tiva. We know that STAAR testing season is just around the corner and math can be a bit overwhelming for some of our students. Today, we're going to be discussing some essential tips and strategies to help students feel confident and prepared for the Math STAR test. Mr. Myers will be sharing his expert advice on how to tackle math concepts, manage time during the test, and practice effectively at home. So we will go ahead and get started with the interview. All right, Mr. Myers, what are the most important concepts that students need to focus on when preparing for the STAR math test?
So, math has a lot of concepts that build upon each other, especially from third grade all the way to high school. So, it's really difficult to nail down a few key concepts. I think what I would want students to do is to think about what they've learned this past year in math and focus on those concepts and make sure that they fully understand those.
Love that. Awesome. And what strategies do you recommend for our students to manage time during the math section of the STAR test? I know this can be very overwhelming for some. For example, maybe how can students decide when to skip a problem and come back to it later?
Yeah, so for the higher grade levels, mostly seventh grade and up, knock out those graph questions first. Most of those questions are going to have the answers in the graph itself, and you only have to read the graph. For everyone else, look for questions that have visuals. Just be sure that you read what they're asking for. Usually that can be found in the last sentence of the problem or so. And then also, if you're completely stuck on a problem and can't figure out a way to start solving it, flag it and then just move on to the next one.
Awesome. I love that advice. What about students who struggle with math formulas? What are some tips to help them remember those formulas during the test?
Well, luckily, there is a formula sheet that's appropriate for every single grade level that they can use. The important part is to make sure that they're familiar with those formulas and know how to use them. So I would suggest searching for your grade level STAR formula sheet. So if I was a fourth grader, fourth grade level STAR formula sheet, and see what formulas are available and make sure that I feel confident in using those.
Awesome. Love it. And what would you say the best way to approach multiple choice questions are in math? Should students be working backwards from the answers or go step by step? What do you suggest?
Yeah, so when we have multiple choices of math, the first thing is to always figure out what the question is asking for. Most of the time, when there's a multiple choice option, one of the questions is obviously wrong. So if we can confidently eliminate those answers, we increase our chances of finding the right one. You could also check to see if any of the answers actually fit the question. So, for example, if there's a question that's asking for a number that's missing, you can plug in what your answers are and see which one works out.
Awesome. Awesome. And can you share some effective ways maybe to practice for the math word problems on the STAR test? Maybe if there's any specific strategies for breaking down those more complex word problems into simpler steps?
Yeah, absolutely. So for word problems, knowing keywords is and what they mean, that's going to help leaps and bounds. So more than is adding, less than we're subtracting. Is, as in Stephen is 3 times larger than Jane, means equals. And that's just some examples. Knowing those keywords like that will greatly help in word problems because if you can read those words and create an equation, then you're on your way to solving the problem. For that, I would suggest searching for your grade level and math keywords to get a list of common word problem keywords.
I love that. I think there's a lot of value in keywords for those problems for sure. What advice would you give our students on the night before the STAR math test? How can they prepare without getting too stressed or overwhelmed?
Trust yourself. You know a whole lot more than you think. So my suggestion would be just to search for those formula sheets and take a look at those to make sure that you're comfortable with them. And then if you don't know how to use them, just search for the formula and see if you can find an example. That's going to be the best way to prepare yourself. I wouldn't want a student to over prepare and just try and do the cram the night before. Just trust yourself and focus on making sure you understand how to use those formulas that are available to you.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I love that. Can you walk through or explain the importance of showing your work in math problems during the STAR test and how our students can make sure that their steps are clear?
Yeah, so by showing your work when you're solving problems, you get it out of your head. Instead of trying to remember if you regrouped your tens or if you divided by three instead of two, having it out and having it visual just to see it clearly and organized is definitely just going to help. And so that's why I always recommend show your work if you're ever in any doubt about if you've done one of the steps of the problems.
Awesome. Love it. And what are the best ways to practice math skills outside of school, either on their own or with parents leading up to the STAAR test?
Yeah, so we recently got IXL and I love it. You can search for specific skills that you want to brush up on. And the great thing is that if you make a mistake in those, it shows you where it was and then how to solve that problem correctly. It also builds. So the problems you start out with in a specific skill are really simple, but then they progressively get a little more difficult, but it's going to be building and it'll just get you better at that skill.
Love that. What an awesome resource. That is super cool. Finally, what advice would you give to our students who feel like they're running out of time during the STAR math test? How can they prioritize certain questions?
Yeah, so if you ever start feeling like you're about to run out of time, take 20 seconds, breathe, and regroup, because that alone can be stressful. But by regrouping, your head will be much clearer for your next task, which is to quickly analyze the question that you're on and see if you recognize it or recognize how to solve it. And then from there, if it's not quick enough, then just flag it and move on to that next question. Once you get those ones that you know for sure done, then you're going to have more time for the more difficult questions.
Perfect. Awesome answer. I think this is going to be so valuable to our students. I thank you so much, Mr. Myers, for sharing some valuable insights and practical strategies with us today. Preparing for the STAR math test can definitely feel challenging for our students, but with the right tips and support, our students can feel much more confident. We hope that you all found this session so helpful. Good luck to all of our students testing.